You looking for payback? If so, you came to the wrong fucking bar.
Now this is a Millie episode. If you're for some reason unaware, we just received season 2, episode 10 of Helluva Boss Ghost for, the episode with ghosts in it, or does it? Ooh, spooky. Though I'm guessing you don't need a rundown of the entire thing because you've already seen it, right? Otherwise, I'd be questioning your intelligence. Should I be questioning your intelligence? Anyway, I'll be splitting this video into 2 sections. First, my review of the episode. Second, and most important, my analysis. Chapters are available through the integrated feature. If you want to skip ahead, your choice. And with that out of the way, what did I think of the episode? Well, backing off what's arguably the most emotional episode of the series, Apology Tour, I think this episode does a great job at keeping that continuity while still giving us some of the usual banter back and forth between characters. The opening especially shows us the aftermath of episode 9 and how it's affected not only Blitz himself, but his business, environment, friends, etc. But there's still some semblance of snide, particularly between Millie and Luna, they're Millie and Luna. The humor mainly mocks his financial outbursts and the oddly dark comedy in Blitz's depressive episodes, which I know sounds kinda psychotic on my part, but hear me out. I'm referring to those moments where Blitz is either putting on his best Bethany Ghost Slaughter impression, or the visual gags of him absolutely downing ice cream mixed with cheese. The transitions from reality to dream sequence were executed super well. The first bad trip gave us the right amount of mysterious build-up before Blitz goes sliding down that vent and into the vision. The second one did an even better job, mixing the idea of an emotional scene with a meta spin. Seriously, what mind spawned the mad idea of Blitz being forced into witnessing his darkest repressed memories while being taunted by this rated R Disney-ass villain, while also seeing the outside world with no control over his motor functions? It's as if one of the writers had a DPDR schizo collab trip and just went, yep, that was a horrible experience, thanks for the inspiration. Though overall, my favourite parts of the episode have to be the combat, obviously. As misused as this term is, the fights genuinely had perfect choreography. Despite the constant twists and turns, it's easy to follow and doesn't lean too hard into the spectacle, and the times that do are usually done from like a wide shot or in slow motion, so it really emphasizes that feel. The damn sound design in these scenes too are just, ugh! Those raw, draining punches from Millie are emphasized almost solely by the sound effects, and you can just feel the debilitation growing with each hit, that by the end of the fight are resulted to more wounded slap sounds. It's thanks to this that those scenes are so much more immersive and oddly realistic. But yeah, great stuff. Now, as for the plot, I think it was a great decision by the writers to have what would usually be a regular mission for our main characters dismantle so many intricacies around them and their relationship, akin to scene stars or unhappy campers. It catches us perfectly off guard. You know what? In retrospect, the whole vibe of this episode is off. Not because of the possible ghosts afoot in the hotel, but because it seems so odd to jump from Apology Tour to this. We, the viewers, are left thinking, well, something's gonna have to happen at some point, which raises the tension, obviously. We know something's up, there must be. It'd be illogical for there not to be. And the episode knows that, using that information to manipulate our perception and toy with our emotions. In other news, the integration of Rolando, the infester, into this whole shebang works greatly. A demon that can pull the strings within your mind and brainwash you into believing things about yourself and others that are completely fabricated is a premise that, to me, wouldn't work anywhere better than this episode. This episode shows up at the exact time with the exact characters and exact idea that you'd be an idiot not to applaud it. Alright, think about it. Blitz is absolutely heartbroken from the previous episode, and so he indulges in a character as an escape and goes on a mission cosplaying as her. Millie tags along since she wants to ensure Blitz is safe and knows that there's someone who cares for him. They go to a damn haunted hotel, Blitz's hyperfixation thanks to the breakup, which just so happens to harbor a demon that can bring out your worst fears. Holy shit! Chef's kiss. 11 out of 10. Alright. Now the king of glazing's finished his donut, let's move on to the stupid analysis thingy. Seeing IMP practically falling apart without Blitz at the wheel is more to me than a ploy to justify Moxie not appearing in the episode, but actually says a lot about what impact Blitz has on the business and its employees. Granted, the main dilemma in that department is that Blitz spent all the company earnings on fucking owls. Damn you, Blitz! But without him there, Moxie completely falls apart since he's being left with all the financial information and documents and no one to split the work with. Better yet, Luna looks dreadful. Why did I write it like that? Better yet, Luna looks dreadful. Why? Well, she has to burn all those taxidermy owls, doesn't she? You know what would be better? If Blitz was there to help. Hell, even better if he never went down that path in the first place. But, well, my main point being, even from the beginning of the episode, we're aware of how important Blitz is in keeping the balance. And what happens if he lets things slip and gets caught in a rut. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of the now infamous moment of Blitz venturing deep into his subconscious with this fictional dream sequence and seeing his mother. Alright, let's get into analysing that scene. Haha! You really think I was gonna let you get off that easy? Nope! Let's discuss the intricacies of the nightmare fuel leading up to the ignition and that damn bonfire of a conclusion to a mad LSD episode. So, we see Blitz crawling through the vent, which, bear in mind, has shown no sign of demonic presence bar from Blitz himself up to this moment, and things seem to be going the way you'd expect them to. But then, something's moving. It's liquid, flowing somewhere. Our main character is too caught up in his snide to notice, and then the idiot slips. Of course he does. And only then does he notice the damn liquid. From my perspective, it looks quite ink-like and almost acts as foreshadowing as to what's to come. Though also, it could absolutely symbolise Blitz's sour mood, since the liquid is quite thick, close to that of maybe a smoothie or a milkshake. But ultimately, our protagonist keeps attempting to proceed further, he slips a few times, but eventually carries on. Just a leak of some kind, right? Hell no, are you crazy? Obviously, the vent distorts and tilts vertically, giving off this claustrophobic vibe. The shadowy aura emanates and Blitz goes flying down the hatch. Simple. Though in all seriousness, the damn tension building here is mad and absolutely deserves recognition. And I'm sure most of us had absolutely no clue what the hell was coming, and to that one guy that did, oh, round of applause to you, buddy. Quick transition. I'd just like to mention the moment where Blitz is hanging on for dear life. This singular panel in that vent being the one difference between essentially life and death to him at this point. The panel could symbolize Millie herself, as coincidentally while Blitz is gripping onto the panel, he screams, "Millie! Millie, I need help! I can't hold on, Millie!" As if she's the only thing left keeping him sane from wallowing in his own shame and falling down into the depths of his own mind and memories. That panel is Millie in a sense, and that becomes even more believable when you realise that this moment is part of a dream sequence. It's where it begins. But why is that important? Well, just as Blitz manifested the vent tilting, he also manifested that panel he latched onto, and as I said, he calls Millie's name at that exact moment. Next up, the flowing mass of liquid that flows over Blitz. And if you remember my thoughts before, I mentioned that this thing symbolises Blitz's mental state and his fall into depravity, which he makes seconds after it flows over him, as if too much for him to handle, and in his mind, no matter how much he screams for help, it will always take over. That's my interpretation of it anyway, but I'm a teenager, not a psychologist. Another thing I noticed about this scene is the way Blitz reacts to the dark, shadowy mess that appears above him. He tries to laugh it off and be his usual humorous self, yet of course it doesn't work and he goes plummeting down to the depths of his mind. Now we all know what happens next, so I'll skip a bit. Millie, in quotes, opens the vent and our main character slides through, making less of a noise than you'd expect for how mystifying fast that fall felt. We can see that what Blitz considers to be Millie is walking quite hunched over, almost zombie-like, so naturally he checks on her and... Need help, Blitz. Well, that was unexpected. The way that Millie's presented here in Blitz's darkest imagination must say something, right? I mean, she has no face and she's wearing the same clothes as she was earlier in the episode. So this must be Blitz's view of Millie as a person, or at least how his mind is tricking him into thinking. It's almost as if she's just a husk, a shell of a being used by Blitz as a way to pass on his struggles and hardship to someone other than him. In my opinion, this is the show's way of telling us Blitz is self-aware of the fact fact that he uses people and he's ashamed of it, fed up of chasing others just to push them away once they return the favor. He wants something, a relationship with someone, whether romantic, familial, or just a simple friend. Yet he tricks himself into believing that he's this heartless monster who only does wrong and has no chance nor a desire to change. We then get this wide shot leading to the doorknob twitching and revealing what many other channels have already covered by this point. Millie, if she died in X episode, blah blah blah. Let's do this rapid fire and not waste too much time. First one, glass in her eye and restraints, murder family, from a fight with Ralphie and Martha nearly burning them at the stake. Holy shit, this show was dark right out of the gate and I'm now realizing. Next up, if Millie burnt to an absolute crisp in the arson fest that was Lululand. Third, if Millie digested that godforsaken fish thing in Spring Broken. Fourth, cherub arrows from, well, cherub. And finally, the missing leg from the bear trap and broken arm from her brawl with Stryker in season 1, episode 5, Harvest Moon Festival. Wow, that was a lot. Though what are the symbolisms behind this? At the end of the day, that's my damn job. Well, this whole sequence could hint at how Blitz further sees himself as the bringer of pain and suffering, that he's been responsible for every injury Millie has sustained, and this vision is kind of a wake-up call that, holy guacamole, these are all the ways things could have gone wrong. The worst case scenario at every turn. What could have happened if Millie screwed up? If you think about it, these outcomes were the product of Millie herself not being able to defend, once again, herself. Blitz never intervened when she almost got her eye gouged out by Ralphie, or a headshot opened by Martha. That was Moxie who saved her. In episode 2, Blitz started the fire, and he was too caught up dealing with Robo-Fizz that she had to fend for herself. Episode 3, Blitz just stood idly as Millie dealt with the fish, risking her life to save Mox. You see where I'm getting at? This is our protagonist's exaggeration of, since he never stepped in and attempted to help, what could have actually occurred if Millie wasn't as good as she is at carrying all that weight and responsibility. Then we get that scene.
When's the last time you actually left someone without hurting them?
That's Fizz, a hyperbolic, eldritch recreation of that memory, the one of Blitz leaving Fizz behind. And what does Blitz do? Well, he scurries away, scared to face this again, another friend lost to his mistakes. So he runs, and soon transports himself into a younger version of himself. Then we see the silhouette of his mother, the beaming yellow volumetric light behind her, acting as a way of saying she is the light in Blitz's life, or was. She was the shoulder he had to cry on, so seeing her again, he flocks over. After all, this is all a dream, right? There's that inviting expression on her face and the camera framing showing us that she's quite tall. And perhaps she was only Blitz's height now, back then, but to a younger Blitz, she was a giant, a role model. And I think this scene does well at visually telling us how children view their parents. They're obviously the guiding light, and the first people kids turn to in times of need. The camera then shows us Blitz's perceived youth by placing it above him, looking down. This actually symbolizes weakness, and it's just a standard filmmaking technique, nothing too insane. But we can see the way that he's clutching onto his mother quite desperately. She's holding him gently and trying to calm him, but Blitz is so eager and in such distress that he just can't contain himself. It's so sad now that you break it down and digest things. Just the look in his eyes says it all, a mix of pain, sadness, and an odd addition of hope. The music's also quite calm and almost heavenly. Then, as a good mother does, she holds him tight. And by her expression, we can tell that if this is an accurate representation of who Blitz's mother was and how she acted, she was empathetic and shared the pain of her children, as opposed to them feeling alone in their emotions. Just by these few seconds, we can tell she was a good mother. Oh, and wow, the lights fade to green, a colour connotated with mischief, greed, and psychotic evil. Basically, just think of the Joker. Though seriously, it's so important, the lighting in this show, since that alone is the entire setup for the tone or mood of the scene. And proving my point, seconds later, we see his mother burn and dissolve into ashes. What a horrible sight. And how graphic it was. Imagine having to witness that as a child and relive it over and over again in your mind, knowing it was you. Your fault this happened. No wonder Blitz is so broken and mentally drained. That's the reason he puts on this hardcore, careless facade, one where nothing is serious, it's all a joke. He's so confident and unable of being embarrassed or feeling pain. It's a lot. A hell of a lot that I'm not by any means qualified to expand upon, but that's just my interpretation. Moving on a few frames as we take a look at how his mum reacts to the burning, seemingly being unaffected by it despite how much it probably hurts. In this recollection, she just lightly smiles at Blitz. Obviously, that's not too realistic, but the sentiment is there. She never wanted him to see her like this, in so much pain. She wanted Blitz to move on and find another reason to live and thrive. That sure well may be Stolas, Eminem, or Luna, anything that makes him happy that isn't destroying him from the inside out or vice versa. It's just such a powerful look, an endearing one. Yet the tone that this scene takes, since it's from Blitz's perspective, someone who desperately wants to go back to a time where things were quote-unquote perfect, tells a different story. The raw emotion in his voice and Brandon's goddamn performance, pure dread as tears stream down his face and he beckons over and over as he urgently tries to save his mom from her fate. Blitz is grabbing at her flesh, which turns to muscle, then to bone, yet he doesn't stop. It's such a powerful scene, man. One that only the scene itself can describe. Though I can comment on what Blitz actually says. His repeated no's and I'm sorry speak volumes. As I said before, Blitz blames himself for a lot of the bad things in his life. So to think that even all these years later he feels the same, it's dreadful. He feels the need to apologize over and over again, so convinced that he was the reason for his mother's death, and it's him who should be punished. In his eyes, he deserves this shitty life. There's no reason to change because this is karma, biting him in the ass for what he's done. It's a sad reality and an amazing scene. And thus, that was the first part of my episode analysis. Whether I'll continue this depends on solely if I want to, so no counting on it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until then, stay positive. Gabba!